Well, I would say technology and mobility behind technology, because nowadays with all of the mobile solutions in the market and things like the cloud, the work has changed a lot, being from very manual and effort intensive, something like 10 years ago, to today where mobility, let's say, and solutions around mobility like clouds and mobile devices, let's say, have made these tasks much more easy for the end user, and especially also providing him not only ease of use, but more information on which he can work with and deliver better results. The second trend, I would say, is consumerization. And this is the point where no matter the companies spend a lot of money in regards of establishing standards and following patterns of their own, they see that sometimes they are outrun by their own people bringing in the company using mobile devices of their own, like lately the iPads, the iPhones, and so on. So I believe that this shouldn't be taken as a bad sign, but on the other hand, it should be taken as a good sign, and we should be using it as companies to our benefit. Of course, from getting to that statement to the end delivery and result, there is a lot of work to be done, so that's definitely something we have to work on. The final thing is, of course, cost related. So a lot of companies, and especially management, are always very cost sensitive and are always putting as number one of their priorities cost. So it's always a challenge having to build a business case and having to prove cost-wise why you should implement a mobile strategy, why you should buy mobile devices, why you should put in place a mobile solution, let's say. And that's fairly difficult. On the other hand, in order for you to be able to measure your performance in the end, this is, I think, a key component of any mobile project, being ready with the business case from the beginning. The biggest challenges, the first one, I would say, is that mobility has hit us really hard the last 3 to 5 years, let's say. And this has a diverse effect on the users, on our employees that end up using this type of new technologies. So let's not forget, we are talking about salespeople or drivers or technicians, which in some occasions they never used technology in the past. So having to train these people, having to make them understand the technology and the fact that if they use it correctly, it will be to their benefit. It's something which is, I believe, critical. This leads to the second point, which is an overall point, encapsulating the first one, I would say, but going even further in the enterprise, and this is change management. So exactly because things are changing and we are changing our strategies, our architectures, our systems, our solutions, and so on. So people need to change around that also in order to exactly being more effective in accepting them, using them, and delivering the expected benefits. So that is also a pretty big challenge. The last one, of course, which is something that it was mentioned very frequently in the event, is, of course, the pace with which technology is changing. So by the time, let's say, you've already established some standard, you put some investment behind it, and you start building your strategy and delivering solutions by which you expect your benefits, technology has more or less already started to change, new things to come out, and so on. So this is one of the big challenges that we have to face today. I think, first of all, in speaking about change management, I think that you need to get people involved. And I would bring back the answer from one of the previous questions, where we said that people have started using commercial devices, consumer devices, let's say, for their own purposes. I would say that you need to embrace this rather than reject it. The second thing, except from learning from your own users, from your own people in the market, is that you need to get them involved. So you need to get their feedback and you need to have their early involvement so that, first of all, you get, I think, significant input for what you want to do. But on the other hand, you also make them feel part of the project, part of the solution, part of the change. So it will be much more easy, let's say, to embrace that. In regards now of technology changing so fast, I think what we can say here is that you really need to have a very, very clear strategy, and you need to take into consideration in that strategy that technology changes, and that strategy needs to reflect that. As an example, in our company we are very specific when we say that we have specific standards which we review every 2 to 3 years. And considering specific user roles, let's say in user categories, we have different standards which, based also on what exactly they do, we review and potentially change every 2 to 3 years to reflect exactly what is happening in technology and how quickly technology is moving. And just to make a point here, it's not about just changing and getting the newest and the better. I think here we need to understand that technology changes and is offering you some things, but you really need to relate these things with your business, with your processes, with what you do in the market. So it shouldn't be just I change technology because something newer and fancier is out there. It should be I adapt this solution because it can give me this extra benefit. So having a clear strategy, I think, of how you do things, where you're today, where you want to go, how you examine, why you change, I think these are all key aspects of what should be done. I think I will give you a good answer here. And this has to do mainly with how we operate in our company, where we have a variety of roles in the market executing different types of activities. So we have salespeople doing more of transactional-based work. We have technicians, fixing equipment. We have drivers delivering our products. So we have a variety of users. Having said that, I think that the key here is to understand what type of device, ruggedized or not, would fit to each one of these individual roles. As an example, for a technician, because he's working with spare parts, with equipment in the market and so on, I think a semi-ruggedized device would be okay. For a driver, because he has to carry things in the customer, he has to put cases in the warehouse and so on, maybe a fully ruggedized device would do the job. For a warehouse employee going around our pallets and so on, I think definitely you need full ruggedization. On the other hand, for salespeople, because they are more transaction-based people, speaking to the customer, taking an order, maybe filling in a survey, I would say that for these types of customers, either no ruggedization or what it's called as minimal or business ruggedization, I think it would be more than enough. So to summarize, you really need to see what are your needs, what are your people doing, where, with whom, how, and to understand if and to what level you would require ruggedization, because there are different levels of ruggedization. Well, I have learned a lot of things, and if I dare say, and I hope you don't get it wrong, more things than I have learned last year, for an example. So the first big thing is that I see a lot of big enterprises, global enterprises, have started already to embrace mobility and understand the role of mobility and how it can deliver benefits to their individual businesses. And within those businesses, of course, in different functions, for different reasons, but still. I think this is one key takeaway, that people, enterprises, management have started to understand that mobility is not just something new, but it's something which can end up being a competitive advantage over your competition. And if you don't have that in place, then bye-bye. The next thing that I have learned definitely is the quick pace of how technology is changing. And I've also seen how different companies are handling this and how they're managing this. And also, I have seen potentially, and based, of course, some statistical analysis, where this trend will end up being in 3 to 5 years from now. Because, as I said, strategic thinking and thinking ahead, not 5, 10 years, I don't believe this is possible, but at least on a time frame of 3 to 5 years is essential for any company building their strategy in order to move on. So I think I have seen very clearly from a number of companies that they are investigating, they are very hot on the subject, and from a couple of research companies, some statistical information to show what is the pattern and how we're moving along in this time frame, which is very, very useful. For me, there is one key big difference to last year. I think last year it was also good, but it was starting from the point of here is the solution we have and this is the technology we used to implement it. So I would say that the starting point of the whole event, in most of the cases at least, was more solution oriented. But as we've seen actually from many presenters in this event, the solution is something you need to consider once you have already identified your need. So this is my business, this is what I want, this is what I need to achieve, I am here, I want to go there, how do I do that? And then behind that thinking you start discussing the solutions. So I think this is the key difference. Almost all of the presenters have started with exactly this thinking. We are this company, we are doing that, that was the challenge, this is what we wanted to get, and that's the technology we used. In a couple of presentations events, I would say that even technology, let's say, was not so much mentioned, okay? It was really business oriented. For me, this is a key change to last year, which I believe it's extremely good. But of course, all of this is complemented and enhanced by all the networking, because of course seeing all of these amazing presenters bringing out all of this knowledge, all of this experience, all of these insights, let's say. Of course you cannot get all the answers and you cannot get everything in 15, 20, 25 minutes that they would present some key points. So I think the next step is networking. I already had a lot of networking sessions with people presenting, asking them further questions on how they manage specific elements of their process. I think behind that, it's also the fact that you get to meet people. So it's not only networking specific to this event, but it's networking for, okay, if I can put it like that, for a long period of time. So I'm sure that with some people, we are also going to be together, exchange opinion, and hopefully see each other next year in next year's event. Otherwise, I would say that the facility and the way the whole thing is organized and the whole organization behind it with all the people is extremely well managed, so that it really gives you the opportunity when presenters are speaking, to focus. But when you really have a break and things are a little bit more easy to network and more freely, speak with the people and bring out all of these questions and experience. So I think for me these are the key elements.